Hello everyone, welcome to our Target Jobs webinar. I'm here with Wendy Walton, the Head of Global Private Clients at BDO, and I'm Jackie Barrett, one of the editors at Target Jobs. We're going to start off with a brief presentation from Wendy, where she's going to introduce both her career journey and BDO, and then we'll move into about a half-hour chat between myself and Wendy, and then we'll open up to questions. Go ahead, Wendy.
Thank you, Jackie. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar about BDO and also my career journey over the last 30 years plus. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Just a quick intro. I joined BDO back in September 1987, so 33 and a half years ago, as an A-level trainee, and the firm and me, of course, have definitely changed a lot since then. Let's talk a little bit about BDO first, and then we'll come back to more about my career story later. So here's a bit about BDO. We've got 18 offices in the UK, from Edinburgh down to Southampton. The largest office is in London. We have 6,000 people working across those offices, but at the moment we're working across 6,000 homes. Last March, we closed our offices overnight, and within 24 hours, everybody was working flexibly from home. And the well-being of our people is our number one priority. It was when we went into the pandemic, and it still is. So our offices, although they opened for a brief time when it was safe to do so, they are still all currently closed. There's a statistic on here that I'm particularly proud of, that 97% of our clients would recommend us. I think that's fabulous, and it's market leading. And we're also a big firm. We have income of 660 million. As well as being in the UK, we're also part of an international network, which has income there you can see of approximately $10 billion. We're in 167 countries, and I Googled to see how many countries there actually are. There are less than 200. So we are pretty much everywhere, with over 90,000 people. And what this means is that we can access advice for our clients pretty much wherever they need it in the world. So we work with tens of thousands of clients. There are a real range of clients. You can see some of the names on the screen there, and you'll probably recognise some of them. What they all have in common is that they're ambitious to grow, entrepreneurial clients. We also have a number of clients across different sectors, so real estate, financial services, retail, and our services are very much focused on our client needs. You can see them on the screen there, and if any of them particularly take your fancy, I won't go into them now, but you can have a look at them on our website. I've always specialised in tax. I'll come back to that later, and I'm in the private client tax team. This is our strategic framework under which we operate, and I really just wanted to pull out a couple of matters from here that may be of interest to you. So the first one is our core purpose, and our core purpose is why we do things, and this is really about helping you succeed. And if you asked somebody within BDO what have they done that week that they've particularly enjoyed, it would typically be something where they've helped a member of their team succeed or a client succeed. The other point here are our values, which is all about how we behave. And we've just launched these new values, which are being responsible and acting with integrity. So that's about taking responsibility for our actions and learning from our mistakes. Being genuine, so that's about being true to who we are, being honest about what we think, feel and believe. And then being collaborative, so we really recognise the power of team and supporting one another and working with one another with our clients. And then finally, being bold, and that's all about being ambitious, innovative, being curious and making change happen. And this is our brand, and our brand is what people say about us when we're not in the room. And I love this. This was designed in-house by our team. Our brand is Ideas People Trust. I particularly love this image. We launched it a few years ago, and our clients and contacts say that they really like working with us, with our teams. We have a personality. We advise clients what to do rather than just what we know, and we build really great relationships with them. And then we have some employee networks. We have 7 at the moment. At BDO, we believe that when you come to work, you should be yourself. And when you are yourself, you can be the best that you can be, and you can achieve your potential, whatever you want that to be. So you can see the 7 networks there. BDO Inspire is our gender network. So that's all about promoting diversity within BDO. Each of these networks has a different set of objectives. BDO Inspire run a series of events to help women across the business. So we've had sessions on how to acquire gravitas, about positive role models, and of course the men are invited along to those sessions as well. Well, it would be useful just to share with you the gender balance within BDO. And if you look at this slide here, you can see that we're pretty evenly balanced until we get to director grade, when the percentage drops to 34%. A few years ago, this was 25%, so we are definitely making progress. And at the moment, we're having listening events with our managers and senior managers to see if there are still any barriers that we need to address for them. At partner level, the percentage drops to 18%, but you can see in the pie chart on the right-hand side there that this has improved from 10% in 2012 to 18% today. And we have an ambition to increase this to 20% by the end of next year. And this is something that we have publicly signed up to through the Women in Finance Charter with HM Treasury. So then a little bit about me. As I mentioned earlier, I joined BDO in 1987. I was still a teenager. There were only about 30 partners there, and only one of them was female. And coincidentally, her name was Wendy. I joined the tax team. I didn't really understand what tax was all about, but I thought I'll give it a go. I had a place at Manchester University, which I deferred and then actually never took up. I've stayed at BDO since. I absolutely, and you might think this strange, I loved tax, and it really does sound odd, but very early on, I was asked to go and visit a client to pick up her tax paperwork, and she asked me a question, and I still remember the question. It was, if I gave my grandson £50,000, what would the tax implications be for me and for him? And of course, I didn't know. I'd only been there for a few months. Couldn't look it up on a computer. We didn't have. We only had one computer in our whole office at the time. So I came back to the office. I really enjoyed researching the answer to that question, and then telling the client in really simple terms what those tax implications were, so that she could understand it. And then I helped her make that happen. BDO supported me a lot, have supported me a lot through my career journey. I did 3 sets of professional qualifications, so the Institute of Tax, Chartered Tax Advisor, the ACCA, and then a very specialist qualification, the Trust and Estate Practitioners. I became a partner in 2000, which means I own part of the business. And along the way, I've had 2 children. My daughter Gemma arrived in 1997, and our son Alex arrived in 2000. And you'll see them later. You'll see on here that I started running in 2007, and you may wonder why I put that on there. It's really because back then I suddenly realised the importance of the interaction between physical and mental well-being, and I went on to run the London Marathon in 2017, albeit very slowly. In 2016, I joined our leadership team, which is our main board, and we're responsible for the strategy of BDO. I still do some client work, however, and I'm the head, as Jackie mentioned, head of Global Private Client Services. But what does this mean, and what sort of client work do I do? It's a rather fancy title. So there's some pictures here which illustrate what I do a little bit. I work with wealthy individuals. Some of them are worth hundreds of millions, some billions, and we help them file their tax returns correctly and pay the right amount of tax wherever they are in the world. They might want to move to another country, and we'll help them understand the tax rules in different countries and then help make that move happen. They might want to buy a plane or a yacht, or buy a property in the UK or overseas. So we help them understand the tax rules in the UK and elsewhere in the world so that they are fully compliant wherever they are. My final slide, just a bit of fun. I thought I'd show you some photos that illustrate what my life has been like over the last 30 plus years at home and at work. Top left, second in, that's me, very young and fresh-faced with a perm. I asked my daughter if she knew what a perm was, and she said it's something to do with curly hair, but it was very compulsory in the late 80s. On here, there's lots of photos of my family, so the real importance of family. Photos of my children when they were young and cute. And then bottom left-hand side, all of us on Christmas Day at the moment in lockdown. Actually, I have both our children's partners living with us too. Me in the middle there, is me running the London Marathon. You can just see a white arm sticking out. And that's a solicitor that I know. She called me as I ran by. She had a box of cola bottles. So I had some cola bottles, we had a chat and did a bit of networking on the way round. On the right hand side there, me with a chap in a red jumper. He's a partner from BDO in Hong Kong. We did a program together in Montreal, so that's us in Montreal, and I've travelled a lot with my clients and with BDO across Europe, to Singapore, Hong Kong, and quite a few places in the US. The animals in the centre there really show the importance of team. And that's me and my private client partners lined up in Regent's Park to do a 5K for charity in memory of one of our colleagues. I'm the penguin, and it was quite surreal running around Regent's Park past the London Zoo penguin enclosure dressed as a penguin. The lady at the top there with the espresso martini, she's one of my partners, and really just to show there that you can make friends at work too. And the light at the bottom is me at the Reading Festival, where I'm double or triple the average age, but I do love live music, as does the rest of my family. And finally, I mustn't forget our new puppy Isla in the middle there. She's our lockdown puppy and is giving us lots of joy. So I hope that gives you a good flavour of me and of BDO. And then back to Jackie, who's got some questions for me.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Your new puppy is adorable.
He is lovely.
And on a more serious note, I think it's really impressive that the percentage of female partners has basically gone up 1% every year since 2012. I mean, that may seem small, but you know, fast forward 10 years, it's really great. Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, so let's kick off. Tell me about the most memorable project you've ever worked on. It could be memorable for good or bad reasons.
Well, I've worked on obviously very many. I think the one that comes to mind is one called Project Bounce. Mm-hmm. It was named Project Bounce by the director who I was working on it with in my team. Actually, it wasn't a client project, but I was asked to take responsibility for running our private client business. And I was given 6 weeks to come up with a business plan. So we called our strategy document Project Bounce. And then I wrote the strategy and then implemented it. And we have a fantastic private client business now with 24 partners and 200 people. And I'm really proud of everything that the team does in it.
That's really great. What challenges do you think you've experienced so far in your career, and how did you overcome them? Maybe pick the top couple.
Okay. Many challenges for sure. I think the one that sticks out, I failed the partner process back in 2009, and that taught me a lot. I think it was the first time that I'd really failed at anything.
Right.
I was very clear with the then leadership team, what did I need to do to be successful when I came back? Mm-hmm. So they set me 4 clear objectives, which I went and ticked off, and then came back the following year and was successful. So although I was grumpy for a while, it was the right decision by them. And I learned an awful lot from it. And another challenge, which I think many of us face, is how to balance life and work. And that's a really tricky one. And that's why I started running actually back into 2007 to really help me with that balance and setting boundaries.
Okay, great. How do you think BDO has specifically supported your career and the careers of other women in the company?
Firstly, they supported me through 3 sets of professional qualifications,
Mm-hmm.
which was brilliant.
And sorry, when you say supported, what does that mean?
Gave me study leave, paid for the exams, really backed me, even though one of the qualifications wasn't core to what I was doing. So they helped me with those. I also have had lots of leadership training. So I've been to some business schools, which has been nice. I went to Harvard for a week back in 2009, which was pretty cool to be there. Lots of opportunities to get involved with different things. I've also had mentoring, coaching, and sponsorship, and they're all slightly different, but all really important.
Mm-hmm. And what about any, did you ever ask for any flexible working time, let's say after you had your children?
I did. I worked part-time when I had my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And part-time actually didn't particularly work for me and my personality style.
Okay.
But I do have a long commute. I saw somebody's asked a question around which office. I'm based in London in Baker Street. It's a 3-hour commute a day. And so for 20 years, well, now I'm working fully at home, of course, but for 20 years I worked at home 1 day a week as well, which saved that commute. So I think that was quite forward thinking for the first that happened 20 years ago.
That is, yeah, that's good. And what do you think keeps you at BDO? I sort of feel you've half answered that, but anything else?
I love the people and the culture. I love what I do. And although I've been there for nearly 34 years, I've had a number of different roles within BDO, and I continue to learn, which is really important to me. There's always something, a new challenge, something new to learn, which is really good.
And you won 2 awards recently, didn't you, at the Women in Accountancy and Finance Awards? Can you tell us about those and why you think you won them and how that made you feel?
Well, somebody was nominated for those awards, and then I was shortlisted, and I was really amazed to even be shortlisted. And I think I said at the time I wouldn't have believed if somebody had told me back in 1987 that I was going to win, even be shortlisted for those awards. I won Woman of the Year in a Global Organisation and Leader of the Year in a UK Practice, something like that. But I felt really very humble and proud, and I wish my parents could have been there to have seen that happen. But it's one for each of them. So yeah, really delighted. And my daughter posted a lovely post on LinkedIn, which again made me really proud. So I was absolutely over the moon to win them.
Oh, that's really great. What do you do? And I noticed someone asked something similar on the question feed. When your confidence has taken a knock, for example.
Yeah. Well, I think lots of us struggle, don't we, with our confidence from time to time, and I'm definitely in that camp. And I think everybody gets nervous. Certainly think about what you're struggling with. Have you been in similar situations before? How did you deal with them? Kind of what worked? What did you learn? Somebody told me once, if I was going into a situation where I felt nervous, really have a good think about when I felt confident or when something went really well, and visualize that before you go into that situation so that you can take it with you. Sometimes, well, I suppose going back to when I failed the partner process, that was a massive in my confidence.
Yeah, it must have been.
I was very clear with the leadership team, well, what do I need to do to come back and go for it again? And sometimes I think you just need to really prepare yourself absolutely as well as you can for any situation. Take a deep breath and go for it.
And I guess learn from it, yeah?
Learn from it, absolutely, yeah.
Did you accept the feedback that they gave you? Like, did you think that was reasonable and did you understand it?
It was reasonable, it was. And although I said I was grumpy for a while, looking back, it was the right decision. And I learned a lot from actually from not getting through. Gave me some other opportunities to do things, including going off actually to a business school for a month, which was sort of transformational.
So you said when you joined, there was one partner, one female partner at BDO. When you became a partner, were you number two, or were there some others by then?
There were some, but I can't remember how many. I can't
Yeah.
remember the percentage. When I made partner, there were 10 of us that year, and I was the only female. But there were definitely other female partners around then. Yeah.
And what do you think? What would you say were the perceived barriers to women that women faced in the industry when you joined, and the barriers now? I say perceived because let's hope there aren't that many. But if you had to compare them, how you felt, what you felt the barriers were then?
Jackie, I think I hope those barriers aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
There were barriers around one which actually at me was I wasn't assertive because I'm quiet, and sometimes if you're quiet you're considered that you're not assertive, but if you're a loud female you could be considered aggressive. I think that's changed.
Yeah.
There was a barrier around, I think, working mums,
Mm-hmm.
and that you wouldn't be so committed, but all of that has gone now. So I'm really hoping that those barriers have disappeared and that those biases no longer exist. But what I would say, wherever you are, if you feel that you're hitting a barrier, coming up against a barrier, ask somebody for help. You're usually given help. And I also mentioned earlier the importance of having a mentor or a sponsor. And seek those out and get the help that you can along the way.
Yeah, because they're there for a very good reason, aren't they? There's someone you can open up to and be honest with and trust.
Yeah, and somebody who will look at it from a different perspective to you and give you some advice. Just look at it from a slightly different angle.
Yeah. Now, I mean, all jobs get a bit boring sometimes. What keeps you motivated?
Continuing to learn and having new challenges is really what keeps me motivated. It's not much more than that. I love to challenge myself. I love to put myself into a situation where I can continue to grow. So that's what keeps me motivated.
And are you still doing the running?
I am. I started again last year. Then I had COVID in May, I stopped for a while, and then I've just started again. So I'm up to about 6 or 7K again now, but again, it's very slow, but I love it. I love going out first thing in the morning when it's nice and frosty.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What kick-started that, the interest in running?
I was working too hard. And my husband had been saying to me for many years, Wendy, you must do some exercise. And the children were quite young. And, there was just something happened and I thought I really need to do something about this. So I was chatting to 2 mums at the children's school and the 3 of us started running together. We couldn't run for a minute to begin with, and we quickly got up to 5K, and then we did a couple of half marathons together and some other runs. They didn't do the marathon with me. That was just my own madness.
That's really impressive.
It was a great day. I thoroughly recommend it, although the training's tough.
I've got a question here. What's been the main thing that's made you stay at BDO?
It's the people. The people are the people there are amazing. We've a fabulous team. We all look out for one another. I think particularly, I've been there for such a long time. We have our ups and downs, and we support one another. This idea that you can be yourself is really important. We are who we are. We shouldn't be trying to pretend that we're somebody else. And I've had a number of different roles. I've been really lucky although I've been in tax, you might think, how can you have different roles in tax? I've done some corporate work, some private client work. I've been on our tax executive. I've been on our partnership council. Just really varied roles and the opportunity to learn and do something different if that's what you want to do. The great thing about BDO is taking responsibility for your own career and doing what's right for you.
I love the fact that you said you didn't really know much about tax when you started. And so we've had a few questions saying, how do I choose what specialization to go into?
It's really difficult. And if I'm honest, I'm not sure that I was hedging my bets when I applied all those years ago. I'd applied for places at university, and when I applied to, it wasn't called BDO then, it was called Stoy Hayward. It was for a job in business recovery. And they said, do you fancy a job in tax? And I said, fine. I said, I didn't really know very much about it. It's really difficult. I think it's doing your research about what you really enjoy and why you enjoy it, and then having a look at the different work streams that are available. There is such a huge choice. And then if you join and it's not for you, then have a look around what else there is at BDO. Very flexible about moving between teams.
Oh, that's good. That must be reassuring for our listeners that you can do that you're not pigeonholed with the first thing you choose.
Yeah.
Do you think your goals and your priorities have changed since you started?
Yeah, definitely. I think to start with, my goals would have been would have been around passing my professional qualifications. Doing the best job that I could do and hoping that I would progress my career and move through the grades. And then I really wanted to be seen as an expert in my chosen field of specialisation. So that motivated me for a while, and that drove some of the things that I did and I got involved with. And today, I really want to be seen as a leader of our business and a positive role model.
And what about the future for you in your career? Any more goals to reach?
No, I think the leadership team, I was really proud when our managing partner asked me to join the leadership team. So I'm really happy in that role. Like to continue to develop new skills. And there's a theme here. You'll have in some of my responses. I've recently done a course on executive coaching to help widen and broaden conversations with people. And in the last year, I've learned a lot on how to use technology. I would not have been that comfortable with doing something like this 12 months ago.
Nor would I.
Teams calls, Zoom calls, all of that. Been learning lots there as well.
I find they kind of open up the world too, because you can easily meet people from any office, and BDO is very global, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Makes that much easier. We had a global conference back in November, which was all obviously digital.
So, what do you think are the top 3 skills you have that have made your career a success?
That I have, so I think empathy. So I think it's really important to understand your team's needs and your clients' needs, and being able to put yourself in their shoes and look at things from their perspective. Particularly with clients, it's really important that they can understand. Tax is really technical, and as a technical person, you can get embroiled. You think, I just write everything in really, really complicated. But clients don't want that. They want to understand the advice that you're giving them. Secondly, adaptability. And I think that the last 12 months has really shown us how adaptable we all are, and how quickly we need to adapt actually to changing circumstances. And then finally, I think resilience. So the ability to bounce back when you've had difficult life events, or, when I failed the partner process, I didn't just go off and think, oh, that's it then, that's not for me. I said, no, I really want this. What do I need to do to get there?
Great. What made you decide? We've had a question come in about working straight away after your A-levels rather than going to university, because it's not such an unusual choice now, but maybe then.
Yeah, it was. So I kept my options open. The truthful answer is I was about to post my acceptance off to Manchester, and my mum was crying as she was washing up. She didn't want me to leave.
Leave home?
Yeah. And rightly or wrongly at the time, I just said, you know what, Mum, I'll defer it a year. I'll give work a go, and I'll give you a year to get used to the idea that I won't be here. And that was that. There was no master plan. And as I say, I joined BDO, and I was lucky. I found a role that I loved, and I progressed, and I stayed.
Great. What were you thinking of studying at university?
Business studies.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you picked up lots of business knowledge over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
This is quite a broad question we've had. So top tips for a new graduate starting at BDO or a school leaver?
I think get involved, make the most of all of the opportunities that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Do the best that you can. Do the best that you can do. Communicate well with your team members, setting expectations and so on. But I would just say, really embrace the opportunity. It's not easy studying for exams as well as working. So definitely important to get those kind of exams under your belt if you're following one of the exam routes. But just embrace the opportunity to get involved with different projects and as much as you can.
Mm-hmm. And does BDO decide which exams you should do, or do you get a choice you said you did one qualification for interest, but are others dictated by the company?
It depends which part of the business you go into.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the audit stream or the advisory stream and some of the tax stream, you will do the accountancy qualifications, but some parts of so the tax stream, you would do the chartered tax advisors qualification. I think Lucy's on hand and she'll be able to help me with some of these answers if I get them wrong.
This is Lucy Boyd joining us. She's the resourcing advisor at BDO. So yeah, Lucy, you can just jump in, please, to answer any of the questions. Do you have any top tips for a grad joining, Lucy?
Yeah, of course. I think Wendy answered that really well. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think ask for help always, especially during the current times. We have had grads join virtually and school leavers join virtually. So don't be sitting at home worrying that you're the only one thinking that you don't know the answer to the question. There will be other people in the same position. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask would be a big tip.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Everyone will always be willing to help.
Yeah. And I like the be yourself. I mean, it at first you can think, oh, well, what does that really mean? But it really means being authentic, doesn't it? And looking and making sure your questions are answered. So
yeah,
being honest and finding out the things you want to find out. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody is there's on our website. There's our culture report, which goes into detail about the networks and our Be Yourself strategy, and it's it's our most downloaded document from our website, and it's just great. So it explains a lot about the culture at BDO.
And someone's asked, have you ever been able to work abroad being at BDO? What you or just in general are people allowed to transfer to work abroad? I know at the moment everything's virtual, but under normal circumstances.
Yeah, we do have comments. I've never been on one. I've travelled with clients and to conferences and so on. A member of my private client team wanted to specialise in US tax, so she went on secondment to BDO in San Francisco. But there are many other examples of international secondments within the network.
Okay. And thinking about, Wendy, you told me the skills that you think have helped you. When you think about colleagues you've met, the ones who really stood out, what do you think made them set them apart, or what made you want to work with them?
That's a really good question.
That's from Louise Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. People who have been really interested in me and want to help and care, and not having a culture of blame. I remember writing in the days when we wrote letters. I wrote a letter on a Friday, and I went home, and over the weekend I realised a number in there was when you wake up in the middle of the night, and I thought there was a number in there that wasn't right. The letter hadn't gone anywhere even, but kept worrying about it all weekend, and I went in and spoke to the partner, and he was just so cool. He said, what are you worried about? It doesn't matter, you know, and it's about, as we said, learning from those mistakes. So no blame culture. And then there are others who have just empowered me to do things. And I mentioned earlier about when I wrote the business plan for private clients, our head of tax then said to me, Wendy, you've got 6 weeks to come up with this plan. And I went back and said to him, this is my plan. And he said, go and get on with it, and I'm here if you need me. So that real sense of empowerment, and he's actually our managing partner now, and he did the same to me when I went onto the leadership team. I was very passionate about building a development program for our partners because we didn't have one, and he said to me, you have a blank sheet of paper, do what you're comfortable with, which is just great.
And you knew he had the confidence in you.
Yeah.
That's important.
And
sorry, go ahead.
And that he would be there if I needed the help.
And Leah asks, and I think in a way we got a sense of this from the slides you gave, but can you share some advice on how to build strong but professional relationships with colleagues in the workplace?
I think you'll tend to work in relatively small teams focused around a particular project, either an internal project or a client. I think it's about being open and honest with your colleagues, setting clear expectations around what's needed from all of you, so from your team members as well, and then delivering against those projects. And it is it's important to have fun along the way. I've mentioned that you do have friends along the way, that you do build friends as well. I met my husband at BDO. I think that's probably less.
Oh, right.
I think that's probably doesn't happen quite so much nowadays. But yeah, I think it's really just those clear expectations around, delivery within a team.
Is he still at BDO as well?
No, he left a long time ago. He left when we got married. He left.
Thought it'd be best not to be married in the workplace.
That's what we decided, and we decided he had to leave 27 years ago.
Fair enough. And Lucy, this is a question for you, I imagine, but also Wendy, feel free to jump in. Any application process tips? It's quite a big question, but that's from Hannah.
Yeah, so I would practice. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a bit of background noise there. Always practice and take your time. So when you get the email about, so say you do your original application, you get an email to say now complete the online test. Don't rush, take your time, do some research and really practice those questions and the types of questions that you might get asked, and then go for it, knowing that you're confident and you've done your practicing, because you only get one shot with a lot of these tests and video interviews. So really do your research and practice. We do have a new video as well on our Early in Career website with application tips. So Hannah, feel free to have a look at that if you want some more info.
Okay, and Amira asked, what do you think sets BDO apart from its competitors? I know that's quite a difficult one, or maybe it isn't.
I think it's our culture around being yourself. And really, obviously, I've never worked anywhere else, so it's very hard for me to make a direct comparison. But for people who join us, that the team, the collaboration, and if you ask for help, you'll get it. And it's about the firm first, rather than your own individual kind of. It's all about me. So that real team effort, I think, and our culture around be yourself.
Okay. And Wendy, so Keisha asks, what made you choose to work with wealthy individuals as opposed to companies?
I just really enjoyed getting to know people and what motivates them, and the whole dynamic around everyone. All corporates are different too, but every individual has their own story, and they'll want to set up charitable foundations and do good for society, or how do we pass wealth down to the next generation, and how will that generation react to it? So I really just liked really getting to know those individuals and what motivates them, and working out how I can help them do whatever they want to do for the benefit of their family.
Great. Lucy, this is probably for you. Asitan asked, does BDO value work experience in applications? Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, any of our candidates to have previous work experience, so don't worry if you don't. That won't, if you don't have work experience, it doesn't mean we won't look at your application. So if you've got work experience, then great, you can use it in the examples during your interview and during your assessment process. But yeah, don't let it put you off if you don't.
Okay. What are the skills most important to BDO that you're looking for?
Well, first of all, we're looking for candidates to be themselves during the assessment process. And then we look for good collaboration skills, teamwork, someone that is happy to get to know us and ask us questions during the process. But yeah, mainly being yourself throughout the process, and yeah, you'll be fine.
Wendy, how did you do your research in the beginning to decide to apply to BDO?
I didn't. You won't be surprised to hear. It was very different then, 30 odd years ago. My dad had heard an advert on Capital Radio, and he said, "Why don't you apply?" So I said, "Okay." So I applied, and I also applied. So I really had no idea. I also applied for a job as a cost and management accountant, very local to where I live, for a company called MK Electrics, and I applied to university, and that was it. And there were lots of jobs around then, and I think when I came along to BDO, they were, sounds terrible, they were probably desperate for people to join. So
I'm sure they weren't.
I went along into the tax world. So no, I'm afraid no science behind it. So it's not very helpful for everybody. I'm sorry.
What about internships, Lucy? Does BDO offer them?
Yeah, we do. So we offer summer internships for students in their penultimate year at uni. We do have some summer internships this year. They will be virtual and they will be going live shortly. So please keep an eye on our website for more details on those.
Okay. And we've had a question from Rebecca about moving to BDO after doing a postgraduate study, but not in anything related to BDO. That would be presumably okay?
Yeah, of course. We don't specify what degree discipline our candidates come from. So again, please don't let that put you off. It's not that we're comparing you to candidates that maybe have studied accounting and finance, for example. We accept all degree disciplines. So yeah. Okay.
Oh, quite a blunt question. Have you ever hated your job, Wendy?
Don't think I've ever hated it. There are times, obviously, I would be lying if I said the whole 33 and a half years were completely rosy. So there've definitely been ups and downs, but I don't think I've hated it. I mentioned when I failed the partners process, which made me grumpy. Probably other times when I've worked too hard, but that wasn't really the job. That was me putting those pressures on myself. But no, not really hated it.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've had questions about fitting your family into your job, and I'm not sure men would get asked this question, which can be frustrating. But you know, did you struggle then when the kids were little?
It's tough. It's tough. I think I had my non-negotiables. So there are certain things I would make sure. I think I missed one parents' evening when I was in a different country. I was in Gibraltar, but I made sure that I was at every assembly, sports day. If something happened, to one of the children, I would rush home. I worked from home. I did you do the best that you can do, but quite early on, I realised that there's no such thing as a perfect mum. And sometimes at work, you also have to let a little bit go and accept that you can't do everything completely perfectly all of the time. That took a bit of time for me to get used to, and the guilt stays with you actually. Whatever age they are, and each age has different challenges. But when my daughter went to university, she said to me that I was a positive role model who'd kind of helped show her how to be independent, which took 18 years to get there. But I thought, that was nice to hear. But it's possible, and today with technology, it's much easier, I think, because to work flexibly. And there are particular challenges at the moment around homeschooling, for men and for women. But I think some good things that will come out of this pandemic will be how people can work in a different way. And I think in the short term, we've seen lots of comments about how it's been more difficult for women during the pandemic. But in the long term, I'm hoping that it will be kind of a real change in the landscape.
Has either of your children followed you into tax?
Oh, no. No. My daughter actually is going down the law route. She's studying to be a barrister, and
wow.
Our son at the moment wants to be a clinical psychologist. But I think I'll put them off tax for life.
Lucy, any advice for international students who'd like to join BDO?
Yeah, we do offer lots to international students. So yeah, we welcome your application. It can be difficult, especially if you are living in a different country at the moment, and when you're joining BDO, you are moving to the UK. So we do offer support, and there's always someone to speak to. You'll get a buddy when you join. Everyone gets a buddy. So it's someone that has been through exactly what you're feeling. So they can give you tips on where's good to live in the area that you're joining, and give you advice on how to settle in, and can help you make some new friends as well.
Great. And Wendy, like you, I've been with the same company for, well, over 20 years. And Leah asks, do you think that has contributed to your current success being at the same company? And would you advise people to change positions or avoid changing positions to reach a high level, or is it irrelevant?
I think it's really personal experience. And there have been times when I've thought, I've been here for X number of years. Should I move just for the sake of it? And to me, that's not the right answer. If you're happy where you are and you're enjoying the work and there's the opportunity to progress, then don't move just for the sake of it. Would be my advice. And also, if you like, we touched on this earlier, if you like the culture of the firm where you are, but you're not completely happy in the role, have a look and see what other roles there are around within the organisation. There's always an opportunity to move and do something different. And
Lucy, for any first years on the call, this is a question from Hardeep. Are there any opportunities, work experience or insight opportunities for first years to find out more about BDO?
Yeah, so insight or virtual insight days now or evenings. Take a look at our website on the events page, and we have all the events such as Wendy's event today for that's on offer to everyone, including first years. But those insight opportunities will really give you an insight into BDO and find out more about the different streams and the different programs that we offer. And then you can consider us for your second or third or fourth year.
Great, thanks. And then the opposite end, we've got Ellie asking a question about an experienced hire. How do you know what level you should be pitching your application at?
Sorry.
Do you want you go for that, Lucy?
So I was going to say, we do have an experienced hire team here at BDO as well. We have experts in tax, experienced hire. So Ellie, if you wanted to contact me on LinkedIn, then I can point you in the right direction. But yeah, Wendy, I don't know if you had anything to add.
Yeah, I thought you'd answer that one much better than I would.
Okay, so I'm just going through the questions, don't want to miss any. Oh, any tips for the assessment centre? This is from Libby.
Yeah, so it's quite similar to the application process. Again, being yourself will get you far in the assessment process at the assessment centre. I would Also encourage you to ask what is expected at the assessment centre, so what task you're expected to complete, so you can really prepare yourself for that, and be prepared for the day as much as you can.
Great. We have a question here. What advice do you have for someone seeking a mentor? I assume this is for someone who hasn't yet joined BDO. Wendy or Lucy?
So within BDO, there are some formal schemes, but also everybody has a people manager, and you could ask your people manager and let them know that you would like a mentor, and they would be able to find one for you within the organisation. We've got lots of willing volunteers when it comes to mentoring, so I think just ask. And when looking for a mentor, be very clear about, I think, what you're looking for as well, because different, you can have a number of different mentors all at the same time if you want to, and you might go to different ones for different things.
And you're a mentor, aren't you, Wendy?
Yes.
Yes. What would you say are some of the concerns your mentees come to you with, without breaking any confidences, of course?
Well, it could be anything. Sometimes confidence. How do I progress to the next grade? Do I want to be a partner? How do I get there? What challenge? Particularly often, if I want children and I want to be a partner, how do you manage both? Building the business, it can be really wide ranging. How do I deal with working with somebody who's difficult? Lots and lots of subjects.
Yeah. If you ever felt, well, what would you do if you thought, I don't actually know if I can help this person? Is there someone you can then direct them to in the company?
Yeah, that would, if I really felt that I wasn't helping, I would think about who within BDO would have the right experience to help them, and then would move them on. And actually there's nothing wrong with that.
Of course not.
If you have a mentor or a coach and the relationship isn't quite working for you, then it's okay to look for another one, if the personalities don't match. And actually mentoring relationships, and they tend to be quite short term anyway, around 6 to 12 months, helping on a particular project, although of course they can last longer than that.
So we're coming to the last 5 minutes here. So Lucy and Wendy, could I just get from both of you some final words of advice you'd give to anyone on the call thinking, yeah, I might go for it and apply to BDO?
Lucy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. So I would advise, again, I've said it, I think, previously in this call, just for you to ask, to get in touch. We've got a team of experts in early and career space, and we're all more than happy to help you and answer any questions that you might be afraid to ask on our website publicly. Just get in touch, and we're more than happy to have a call with you. But there's no harm in going for it. Just put yourself out there, have confidence in yourself and in your skills, and just go for it.
Thank you. And Wendy?
Yeah, a few things before I come just to kind of final pieces of advice. I think just look after your own well-being, and remember to be kind to yourself. And people forget about that. And when you say be kind to yourself, what does that mean? And just about taking time for you, and whatever that means. And I think when you embark on a new career, it can be full on. So pace yourself, I would say. Take a long-term view, and over a long career, sometimes your personal life takes priority and sometimes work takes priority, but be really clear about your non-negotiables and what your boundaries are. And when working as part of a team, understand what that for your team as well, so that you all set really clear expectations with one another, and realistic expectations. And at the moment, in this environment that we find ourselves in, it's really difficult because those boundaries can get quite blurred, because we're working and living in the same place. So I think just that one piece of advice would be really look after your own mental and physical well-being. And then definitely take ownership of your career. It's your career. Really take responsibility for it. Lucy's said this already. Remember to be yourself. It's great to be you. Work as part of a team. The team is really, really important. I've said pace yourself, and I think also remember to have fun, a bit of fun along the way as well. So I think that's probably the final words from me.
Thank you so much, Wendy. You're an amazing role model, and I love the fact that you have an incredibly rich and successful work life, but I can also tell that you have a really rich and successful personal life too, which is really inspiring and well, it's great.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And Lucy, if anyone did have any other questions, would it be best to just direct them to the BDO website? Are there chats or emails?
Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. My name's Lucy Boyd, and take a look at our website. We also have a page on our website called Talk to Us, and we've got lots of members of BDO on that, and you can ask us direct questions and we'll get back to you straight away.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much to both Lucy and Wendy, and thank you everyone who has been attending the webinar.
Yeah, thank you all for joining.